Let me take you on a long, winding journey, a tale spun from the tangled threads of passion, betrayal, and the unpredictable spark of destiny. Gather around and let your imagination light up as I share the extraordinary saga of Dominic "Dom" Aldridge, a man whose reputation as a master electrician was as dazzling and dangerous as the currents he manipulated, and whose personal life crackled with scandal and intrigue in equal measure. This is a story that defies the mundane and bursts with energy, a relentless cascade of events that will keep you riveted from beginning to end. From the moment you first set eyes on Dom, you would have known that he was not an ordinary tradesman. Born in a dusty industrial town where sparks flew as frequently as gossip, he grew up amidst humming transformers and the steady drone of electric wires. Even as a child, Dom displayed an uncanny affinity for all things electrical. While others played with toy cars and marbles, he could often be found tinkering with broken appliances, coaxing them back to life with a combination of skill and wild intuition. His reputation blossomed early on, fueled by whispered tales of miraculous repairs and near-mystical installations that seemed to defy logic and physics alike. Yet behind those piercing eyes and the practiced ease with which he restored power to darkened homes lay a tempestuous soul, a soul that longed not just for the hum of electricity, but for something deeper, something forbidden. Dom's career took him on a circuitous route through the hearts and minds of those he served. Every home was an opportunity, every new client a potential spark that might ignite his inner fires. And then there was the client who would change everything, a woman of elegant charm and a mysterious allure named Veronica Sinclair. Veronica had recently inherited a sprawling estate on the edge of the city, a majestic mansion that had once been the pride of a bygone era. Rumors swirled among the servants and the local townsfolk about her refined tastes and a past marred by loss and isolation. When she called on Dom to repair a delicate, antiquated lighting system in her manor, fate began its slow but unstoppable turn. Dom, ever the perfectionist and aficionado of intricate wiring and hidden circuits, arrived at her doorstep with a mixture of professional pride and something else, an unspoken longing. Veronica's eyes, soft yet piercing, met his with a spark of curiosity, and in that fleeting moment, the boundaries of duty and desire began to blur. Their initial conversation was innocuous enough. Discussions about voltage, circuitry, and the delicate interplay of light and shadow in a well-designed room. But beneath every word lay a tension that neither could quite name. Over the next few weeks, Dom found himself returning to the estate with increasing frequency. What began as scheduled maintenance evolved into late-night consultations, where dim lamplight revealed secrets hidden in the corners of the mansion and even darker truths whispered in the silence between words. In the labyrinthine corridors of Veronica's home, where antique mirrors reflected distorted images of passion and regret, an illicit affair blossomed like a dangerous fire. Their rendezvous were set against a backdrop of crackling wires and the steady, rhythmic thrum of power coursing through metal conduits, a symphony of electricity and desire. Yet, as with every great flame, the intensity of their passion was fated to draw the attention of those most intimately connected to Dom's life. For years, he had shared his life with Mary Ann, a woman whose gentle strength and quiet resolve had provided the counterbalance to his tempestuous nature. Mary Ann had been his anchor in the storm, the keeper of his secrets, and the one who believed in him unconditionally. Their marriage, though sometimes strained by Dom's restless spirit and inexplicable absences, had always been built on a foundation of mutual respect and unspoken understanding. But nothing can remain hidden forever. The spark that lit his affair with Veronica grew into a conflagration of deceit and peril, and soon the delicate equilibrium of Dom's existence began to shatter. It was on a rain-drenched evening when Mary Ann first sensed that something was terribly amiss. The pitter-patter of raindrops against the window pane echoed the rhythm of her racing heart as she sat alone in their modest, once happy home. The silence was broken only by the occasional hum of a refrigerator or the soft creaks of an old house settling. Until, almost imperceptibly, the sounds of an unfamiliar conversation seeped through the thin walls. Mary Ann's intuition, honed over years of silent endurance, told her that the world as she knew it was on the brink of irreversible change. As she quietly followed the sounds, her heart pounded with a mix of dread and resolve. In a hidden corner of their home, she discovered evidence: a stray scrap of fabric, a misplaced set of keys, and the unmistakable murmur of voices exchanged in whispered conspiracies that pointed unambiguously to Dom's betrayal. The revelation was as shocking as it was inevitable, a violent jolt to the system that powered Mary Ann's heart. Yet, for all the fury and heartbreak that coursed through her, there was a fierce, almost unyielding determination that began to form in the depths of her soul. The woman who had once accepted Dom's eccentricities and erratic moods with quiet resignation now saw clearly the tangled web of deceit in which she had been entangled. Her pain was not just for the loss of love, but for the shattering of trust, the crumbling of a world she had built with painstaking care. Mary Ann vowed, in that moment of desperate clarity, that she would reclaim her life from the wreckage of betrayal. She would not be a victim, but a survivor, unbound by the chains of regret or sorrow. What followed was a dramatic, spiraling descent into chaos, a maelstrom of emotions and consequences that would affect not only the lives of the three main players, but also the very fabric of the community that had long revered Dom's handiwork. Word of Dom's indiscretion began to circulate like wildfire, carried on the tongues of disgruntled neighbors and whispered behind closed doors in local cafes. Some were shocked and saddened by the news, unable to reconcile the image of the brilliant, if erratic, electrician with the notion of infidelity. Others, with a mix of schadenfreude and indignation, savored the fall of a man who had long operated above the moral standards of those around him. And yet, amidst the swirling rumors and gossip, a more insidious undercurrent of danger began to emerge. In the weeks that followed, the once unquestionable brilliance of Dom's electrical skills started to be marred by inexplicable malfunctions and, at times, outright sabotage. A series of inexplicable power outages in key areas of the city, each accompanied by strange, almost ritualistic markings near the affected electrical boxes, set off alarms in the local authorities. The public, already reeling from the scandal of Dom's personal life, began to wonder if the same man who had ignited illicit passions could also be behind a deliberate act of technological terror. Was it possible that a heart broken by betrayal could harbor a desire for vengeance so potent as to threaten the stability of an entire community? As the days bled into one another, the tension escalated to a fever pitch. Dom, once the charming savant who had captivated hearts with his ingenuity, found himself at the center of a storm that threatened to engulf him completely. His every move was scrutinized, his every repair inspected for hidden meanings, and his once adored reputation now teetered on the precipice of ruin. Yet, in the midst of this turmoil, a peculiar transformation took place. The man who had once reveled in the thrill of secret liaisons and midnight escapades began to exhibit a darker, almost obsessive side. His eyes, which once shone with the electric glow of possibility, now burned with an intensity that bordered on madness. Each flicker of a malfunctioning street lamp, each unexpected surge of power, seemed to be a reminder of his transgressions, a haunting chorus of whispers that urged him to confront the consequences of his actions. Meanwhile, Mary Ann, no longer willing to be the silent sufferer, embarked on a journey of self-discovery that took her far from the confines of her familiar existence. With her carefully accumulated savings and a resolve that was as unyielding as it was heartbreaking, she packed her few belongings and set off into an uncertain future. There is an undeniable irony in the way life had unfolded. While Dom's world was being consumed by the chaotic energy of his own making, Mary Ann found herself liberated by the very act of leaving. Every step she took away from their shared past was a step towards reclaiming her dignity and redefining her identity, a testament to the resilience that lies dormant within even the most wounded hearts. Veronica, for her part, remained an enigmatic figure throughout the entire ordeal. As the true architect of the affair, she oscillated between being a willing accomplice and a reluctant victim of circumstance. The high society circles in which she moved were not immune to scandal, and as whispers of her involvement with the infamous Electrician grew louder, she too found herself entangled in a web of suspicion and danger. Some said that Veronica had been seeking an escape from a life of suffocating expectations, a desire to feel something raw and unfiltered that the pristine veneer of her world could never provide. Others speculated that her intentions were far more calculated, that every step, every seductive smile and subtle touch was part of a grander design to seize control of a destiny that had been written for her long before she was born. Whatever the truth, her presence in the unfolding drama added yet another layer of intrigue, a tantalizing mystery that kept both supporters and detractors alike on the edge of their seats. As the local authorities began piecing together the puzzle of the electrical disturbances, a series of seemingly unconnected events slowly coalesced into a narrative of retribution and reckoning. A reclusive former employee of Dom's, embittered by past grievances and long nursing his own grievances of betrayal, emerged from the shadows with cryptic warnings of a reckoning that would soon come to pass. This man, whose name was whispered in the dark corners of the city as the Conduit, claimed to have evidence that linked the bizarre electrical phenomena to deliberate tampering, a conspiracy that pointed back to Dom and the unholy alliance he had formed with Veronica. His revelations painted a picture of calculated malice, a scheme designed not only to exact personal vengeance, but to send a chilling message to all who dared cross the boundaries of loyalty and trust. In the midst of this growing maelstrom, Dom's internal battle intensified. Haunted by the memory of Marianne's tearful eyes and the steady cadence of her heartbreak, he oscillated between guilt and a desperate desire for redemption. Late at night, when the world was cloaked in darkness and the only sound was the low murmur of distant traffic, he would pace the worn floors of his small apartment, wrestling with a torrent of emotions. His mind, ever the labyrinth of ideas and impulses, teetered on the brink of insanity. Every spark that danced along an exposed wire, every hum of the electrical current, became a cruel reminder of the choices he had made, the choices that had shattered lives and set off a chain reaction that could not be undone. Yet, even as his world spiraled into a vortex of despair, there remained a glimmer of hope, a possibility that redemption was not entirely out of reach. Dom began to piece together the fragments of his fractured life, seeking answers in the silent language of circuits and currents. In his quest for absolution, he found himself drawn back to the very heart of his craft, the intricate networks of wires and transformers that had once been his sanctuary. In a symbolic act of defiance against the chaos that threatened to consume him, he embarked on a mission to repair not only the failing electrical systems of his beloved city, but also the broken connections of trust and love that had been severed by his own hand. It was a race against time, a desperate bid to rewire his existence before the final circuit was broken beyond repair. The city, too, seemed to pulse with an almost sentient awareness of the unfolding drama. Each neighborhood, each alleyway, bore the marks of an energy that was both literal and metaphorical. In some corners, flickering neon signs and malfunctioning street lamps served as silent witnesses to the inner turmoil of a man who had once been the master of his domain. In others, the steady hum of industrial generators and the rhythmic pulse of power stations reminded the citizens of the delicate balance between creation and destruction, order and chaos. As authorities continued their investigation, it became increasingly clear that the crisis was not merely a matter of personal betrayal, but a microcosm of a larger struggle, a battle for control over the very forces that illuminated and animated the modern world. And so, as the storm clouds gathered on the horizon and the city's power grid trembled under the strain of mounting tensions, the stage was set for a climax that none could have foreseen. In a twist of fate that was as unpredictable as the flickering patterns of an errant circuit, the threads of the lives of Dom, Marianne, and Veronica converged in a final, electrifying confrontation. It was a night of relentless rain, where every flash of lightning seemed to carry with it the echoes of past regrets and future promises. The air was charged with an energy that was palpable, a prelude to a reckoning that would reshape the lives of everyone involved. Under the harsh glare of streetlights and the relentless barrage of rain, Dom found himself cornered by the consequences of his actions. The conduit, whose presence had been the dark whisper in the city's collective memory, revealed himself with an unsettling calm. His eyes, cold and calculating, locked onto Dom with a mixture of pity and contempt. "You've played with fire for too long," he intoned, his voice slicing through the torrential downpour like a sharpened blade. "Now, the sparks you've ignited are about to consume everything." In that moment, the full weight of Dom's transgressions crashed down upon him. The betrayal of Marianne, the reckless affair with Veronica, and the ensuing chaos that had set the city ablaze in metaphorical flames. But it wasn't just external forces that threatened to engulf him. Inside, Dom battled the tumultuous interplay of regret, defiance, and a desperate longing for absolution. Each memory of Marianne's gentle smile and her quiet strength waged war against the allure of Veronica's enigmatic promise, a promise of escape from the mundane, even if only at the cost of his own soul. As the confrontation unfolded in the dim light of the storm, Dom realized that he had reached a point of no return. Every choice he had made, every circuit he had crossed, had led him inexorably to this moment of reckoning. The conduit's words echoed in his mind, a relentless reminder that no one escapes the consequences of tampering with the very forces that govern life itself. And yet, in the midst of that chaotic maelstrom, there was a glimmer of something unexpected, a revelation that perhaps the true nature of electricity, with its unpredictable surges and fleeting brilliance, was not so different from the human spirit. In a moment of clarity as profound as it was terrifying, Dom understood that redemption was not an endpoint, but a journey, a continuous process of mending broken connections and forging new paths in the dark. With trembling hands, he reached for a set of tools that had long been his constant companions, determined to right the wrongs that had unraveled the fabric of his life. Every twist of a wire, every delicate adjustment of a fuse became a prayer, a desperate bid to restore order to a world teetering on the edge of oblivion. Meanwhile, Marianne, having already left behind the shattered remnants of her former life, embarked on a new existence defined not by bitterness, but by an unyielding desire to reclaim her power. Her departure was not a retreat into despair, but a courageous step into the unknown, a defiant rejection of the constraints that had once bound her. In the quiet solitude of a modest apartment far from the epicenter of the scandal, she began to rebuild herself piece by piece. The betrayal, as excruciating as it had been, unlocked a reservoir of inner strength that had lain dormant for too long. With every sunrise, she forged ahead, determined to reclaim not only the tangible remnants of her past, but also the intangible spark of hope that had been smothered by years of quiet suffering. Veronica, caught in the crossfire of passion and power, navigated a labyrinth of social expectations and personal demons. The whispers about her grew louder with each passing day, and as she moved through the glittering circles of high society, every glance, every sideways comment became a reminder of the precarious tightrope she had chosen to walk. Her motives, as layered and complex as the intricate wiring that Dom so loved to manipulate, remained shrouded in ambiguity. Was she merely a victim of circumstance, a soul desperate to taste the forbidden fruit of desire? Or was she a calculating architect of her own destiny, willing to sacrifice everything for a glimpse of something greater? The answers, like the elusive currents that danced along the edges of Dom's installations, defied easy interpretation, leaving behind only questions that festered in the minds of those who followed the unfolding drama. As the storm outside raged on, the final confrontation between the forces of creation and destruction reached its zenith. The city, already reeling from a series of inexplicable blackouts and erratic surges, became the backdrop for a showdown that transcended the realm of mere mortal conflicts. In a secluded warehouse on the outskirts of town, a relic of an industrial past that now served as a clandestine arena for those seeking to wield the power of the modern age, Dom, Marianne, Veronica, and the conduit found themselves inexorably drawn together. The air inside was thick with anticipation and the unmistakable scent of ozone, as if the very molecules of the space were charged with the weight of destiny. There, beneath the cold glare of fluorescent lights and amidst the humming machinery that had long been forgotten by the outside world, the final pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Accusations were hurled like live wires, and each word exchanged carried the potential to unleash further devastation. Dom, his face etched with lines of regret and determination, found himself confronting not only the physical manifestations of his past mistakes, but also the emotional tempest that had defined his every waking moment. "I was a fool," he admitted, his voice cracking under the strain of unshed tears and unspoken remorse. "I thought I could control the flow of power, that I could harness its brilliance to light up the darkness inside me. But I lost sight of what mattered, of the connections that truly make us whole." His confession hung in the charged atmosphere, a moment of raw vulnerability that resonated with every soul present. Marianne, standing a few paces away, absorbed his words with a mix of sorrow and defiant resilience. The pain in her eyes was unmistakable, yet there was an undeniable spark of liberation, a spark that had been kindled by the realization that she was no longer defined by the mistakes of the past. "Your power was never just in the wires, Dominic," she replied softly, each syllable imbued with a quiet strength. "It was in the promises you made, the trust you built, and once that is broken, even the brightest light can never truly dispel the darkness." Her voice, steady and unyielding, cut through the murmurs of the assembled crowd, leaving an indelible mark on all who bore witness to this cathartic moment. Veronica, ever enigmatic, listened intently, as if weighing the scales of her own conscience. The gravity of the situation, the weight of all that had transpired, pressed down upon her like an unseen current. In that crucible of raw emotion and unresolved tension, the paths of all three souls converged into a singular truth, one that defied easy categorization. There were no simple villains or heroes in this tangled narrative, only flawed, human beings driven by the relentless pursuit of something greater than themselves. The conduit, his role as the harbinger of reckoning finally complete, stepped back into the shadows, leaving behind an atmosphere that was as electrically charged as it was laden with sorrow and hope. As the storm outside began to subside, replaced by a fragile calm that belied the chaos of recent events, each character was forced to confront the consequences of their choices. Dom, now a man stripped bare by the revelations of his own making, took his first tentative steps on a journey towards redemption, a journey fraught with the uncertainty of mending what had been broken and restoring the balance between creation and destruction. Marianne, having reclaimed her identity and strength, resolved to build a new life founded not on the ruins of betrayal, but on the promise of self-discovery and the unyielding courage to start anew. And Veronica, her own path forever altered by the choices she had made, vanished into the folds of a future that was as enigmatic and unpredictable as the flicker of a dying light. Throughout this saga, the threads of electricity, those vital, unpredictable currents, served as a constant reminder of life's dual nature. Like the very circuits Dom had once mastered, human connections could be both illuminating and destructive, capable of powering the brightest dreams or plunging the soul into darkness. The storm that had raged outside was not merely a meteorological phenomenon, but a mirror to the inner tempests of the heart, a storm that, despite its fury, also cleansed and renewed. And in that bittersweet interplay of light and shadow, of passion and regret, lay the true essence of the tale. For those who lingered to listen, the story of Dom Aldridge was more than a mere chronicle of scandal and downfall. It was a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity, the eternal struggle to reconcile our deepest flaws with our highest aspirations. It was a reminder that even in the wake of betrayal, even as relationships shatter like fragile glass under the weight of truth, there remains the possibility of rebuilding, of finding beauty in the remnants of a broken past. Each spark that flew in defiance of the darkness was a symbol of hope, a tiny yet unyielding beacon that illuminated the path forward, no matter how treacherous the journey. So here we stand, at the end of this long and winding tale, a tapestry woven from the raw fibers of passion, regret, and the relentless quest for redemption. The story of the crazy electrician, his torrid affair, the heart-wrenching discovery by his devoted wife, and the tumult that followed is not a fable of simple morals. Rather, it is an intricate dance of fate and free will, of light battling darkness in an eternal struggle that defines the human condition. And as you carry these words with you into the quiet moments of reflection, may you remember that every life, no matter how fraught with error, holds within it the possibility of transformation, a possibility that, like a spark in the night, can ignite the brightest of futures even after the most devastating of storms. In the lingering aftermath of those fateful events, the city slowly began to heal. The power outages became less frequent, and the repaired electrical systems, each meticulously tended by Dom's steady hands, started to hum with the promise of renewal. Neighbors who had once cast furtive glances at the scarred visage of their fallen hero began to speak of his eventual resurgence. A comeback story that, while marred by scandal, was also a chronicle of human resilience. In quiet corners of the city, small groups would gather to recount the tale as a living legend, each retelling adding its own subtle twist to the narrative of a man who had, for better or worse, become a symbol of the unpredictable interplay between genius and folly. Even as whispers of forgiveness mingled with accusations, Marianne's own journey emerged as an inspiring counterpoint. Far from the confines of her past life, she began to forge alliances with others who had experienced their own betrayals, a community of survivors determined to rise above the wreckage of lost love. In time, her story too became interwoven with that of the city, a poignant reminder that sometimes the greatest strength is born from the willingness to let go, to embrace the uncertain future with courage and conviction. And so, as the final currents of that tumultuous period receded into memory, the city embraced a new era, a time where every flickering light and every spark of electricity carried with it a story of hope, redemption, and the enduring power of the human spirit. The saga of Dom, Marianne, and Veronica, with all its passion, suspense, and heartache, was not just a tale of scandal. It was an epic woven into the very fabric of a community that had learned, through pain and perseverance, to find light in the darkness. Now, dear listener, as you let the echoes of this story settle into the quiet corners of your mind, remember that life itself is an unpredictable current, a surge of emotions, decisions, and unforeseen twists. Just as electricity can transform a dark, silent room into a vibrant space of illumination, so too can the human heart, when mended and nurtured, spark the brilliance of a new beginning. May you carry the lessons of this tale with you, a reminder that even amidst betrayal and despair, there lies an untamed energy, a wild, beautiful force waiting to be harnessed and transformed into the light that guides us through our darkest nights. And if, by chance, you ever find yourself standing in a quiet street on a stormy night, listening to the hum of power lines overhead, let that gentle, persistent buzz remind you of the enduring truth, that within every shattered circuit lies the potential for repair, and within every broken bond, the possibility of an electrifying rebirth. For life, in all its chaotic beauty, is nothing if not a series of sparks waiting to ignite the fire of tomorrow. As the years passed, the city continued to evolve, each new day a silent tribute to the lessons of the past. In small, unexpected moments, a kind word from a neighbor, the quiet determination of a person rebuilding their life, the soft glow of a street lamp defying the night, the story of the crazy electrician and his tumultuous love affair lived on. It became a part of the collective memory of a community that had learned that even the most disruptive forces could pave the way for unexpected beauty. And so, every time you see a spark of light in the darkness, remember the tale of Dom, Marianne, and Veronica, a tale of passion, betrayal, redemption, and above all, the ceaseless, unstoppable flow of life's electricity. And thus, with each pulse of electricity that illuminates our nights and enlivens our days, we are reminded that even when lives are torn asunder, the promise of renewal flickers just beneath the surface, ever ready to burst forth in a blaze of brilliant, defiant light. This is not merely a story, but an invitation to look beyond the surface of our everyday lives, to see the interconnected currents that bind us all, and to realize that every end is simply the spark of a new beginning. May you always dare to harness that spark, and may your life be as electrifying and unforgettable as the story that has just been told. Please note, every heartbeat, every flicker of light, carries within it the echoes of this long and winding tale, a reminder that in the grand tapestry of existence, even the most shattered wires can be rewired, and every broken circuit can one day be mended with the unyielding power of hope.